Hi there, my name's Charlie. I'm not the one who went on this trip, but I'm here to tell you the story as if it were mine, because it might as well be yours or your grandpa's, or maybe even the person you hope to become one day. You see, this is the story of someone who turned 50 and decided not to settle down, but to stand up, stretch wide, and finally ask, now what? Not in fear, not in regret, but in wonder. 50 years, that's half a century of work. Raising kids, paying bills, saying maybe next year. But one morning, after stirring his coffee a little longer than usual and watching the steam curl like clouds over the rim, he said, I think it's time I saw more of this world while I still can. Now, most people think travel after 50 is about ticking off a bucket list. You know, see the Eiffel Tower, eat pasta in Rome, ride a camel in Morocco. And sure, those are wonderful. But this story, this one's different. It wasn't about landmarks. It was about life marks, moments that stay with you, not because they were famous, but because they were real. A smile from a stranger, the sound of waves in a place where no one speaks your language, the way the stars look when you're not in a rush. So where did it all begin? Right in his own backyard, actually. You don't need a passport to start seeing the world differently. Sometimes you just need a change in pace, a walk in the park without checking your watch, a day trip to a nearby town, not for errands, but for discovery. But soon the road called louder. And so began the real journey. First stop, Japan. Not because it was trendy, but because he always loved quiet things, gardens, tea, stories told in gestures more than words. And Japan welcomed him with exactly that. An old man watching koi fish became a teacher without speaking. A bowl of ramen on a cold Kyoto night turned into a memory that warmed him for years. He learned to bow not just with his head, but with his heart. Respect, he found, was a language everyone understood. Then came Portugal, bright tiles, ocean breeze, and music in the streets. He rented a tiny room in Lisbon, and every morning he'd sit at a cafe with a notebook he hardly wrote in, just holding it, like a key to thoughts he hadn't unlocked yet. There he danced with people he never met before and might never meet again. He learned that joy doesn't need a plan. Sometimes it just shows up. And your job is to say yes. Now, not every moment was perfect. There were missed trains, aching knees after long walks, times when he felt foolish for not knowing the language or for forgetting something simple. But he didn't mind. He called those travel wrinkles. Not flaws, just signs he was really living. One evening in Greece, he sat by the sea and watched the sun melt into the horizon like honey. A little girl next to him pointed and said something in Greek. He didn't understand, but he smiled anyway. She giggled. And just like that, he felt younger than he had in years. He wasn't chasing youth. He was
Next came
rediscovering
South America.
wonder. Now, if Japan was like a quiet poem and Portugal like a song you hum to yourself, then South America was a drumbeat, loud, wild, alive. He landed in Colombia first, Cartagena, with its colors so bold they looked like they'd been painted by the sun itself. Music spilled from windows. People laughed with their whole bodies. Everything smelled like spices and ocean. He stayed in a little guest house run by an older woman named Rosa. She treated him like a long-lost cousin. Every morning she made him arepa with eggs and fresh fruit. And every evening she told him stories that didn't need translation, because sometimes laughter and hand gestures say more than words ever could. One night Rosa brought him to a dance festival in the plaza. Now remember, he hadn't danced in years, maybe decades. His legs ached from all the walking, and his back wasn't what it used to be. But Rosa pulled him up anyway. Vamos, viejo, time to move, she said. And so he did. At first, awkward, then curious, and finally, joyfully. He forgot his age. He forgot his worries. All he remembered was the music, the movement, and the way everyone around him smiled like they knew a secret he was just now learning. That life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. You dance now or you miss the music. From Colombia, he drifted south to Peru. Not for Machu Picchu, though he saw it. And yes, it was breathtaking. But the real magic happened in a small mountain village outside Cusco. There, he volunteered for a week at a tiny school, not because he was trying to give back, but because he was curious. He helped the kids with English, and they helped him with something even bigger: humility. He realized he didn't need to be impressive. He just needed to be present. One of the kids gave him a pebble before he left, just a regular stone, smooth and gray. "For good luck," she said in Spanish. He kept it in his pocket for the rest of the trip. Not because he believed in luck, really, but because it reminded him that the smallest moments of languages he didn't understand and currencies he kept forgetting. He landed back in the United States, home, but it didn't feel the same. Not because it had changed, but because he had. He used to think he knew this country, the highways, the diners, the national parks he'd visited once or twice. But now he saw it differently. He didn't want to rush through it. He wanted to feel it. So he bought a used camper van, nothing fancy, just four wheels and enough room for a bed, a kettle, and his favorite worn-out journal. He named it Rusty because it squeaked a little, and he kind of liked that. The Great Plains, where the sky never ends. He started his American road trip in Kansas. Now, people always joke about Kansas being empty, but he didn't see it that way. To him, it was open, a giant, breathing canvas of golden fields, sunsets that stretched like fire, and clouds that moved like slow, thoughtful ships. He stopped in a town with one gas station and a diner called Mabel's. The coffee was strong, the pie was sweeter than expected. And Mabel herself, 93 years old, still working. He asked her why. She said, "Because every morning I wake up and I still want to." That hit him hard. Wanting to wake up, wanting to show up. That was more powerful than any bucket list. The Southwest, rocks, heat, and the sound of stillness. Next, he drove south into New Mexico and Arizona. He camped in the desert. Just him, the stars, and the coyotes howling in the distance. It was hot during the day, freezing at night. But the silence was loud in the best kind of way. At Monument Valley, he sat on a rock for 3 hours, didn't take a picture, didn't check his phone. He just watched the shadows move across the giant stone towers like time itself was whispering. In that stillness, he felt something settle inside him. Not everything had to be chased. Some things just needed to be witnessed. The Deep South, stories that hum like old blues songs. In Louisiana, he stayed in a guest house run by a man named Elijah who played jazz on his porch every night. Elijah was 81. Said he used to tour with a band back in the day. One night, Elijah looked at him and said, "Man, it's not the places that make you feel alive. It's the people you meet there." And then he played a song so soft, so full of ache and joy at the same time, it made the stars blink a little slower. He spent 3 days there, just listening, talking, laughing, remembering how much music can heal, even when there are no words. The Appalachian Mountains, a walk through memory. He wound his way up through Tennessee and into the Appalachian Mountains. There he stayed in a tiny cabin with a wood stove and a front porch swing. It reminded him of the place his grandparents once lived, before the world got so loud. He hiked trails lined with leaves the color of rust and gold. On one trail, he met a woman in her 70s who hiked 10 miles every day. Movement is medicine, she told him. Don't let your bones forget they were meant to roam. They walked together that afternoon, didn't say much, just let the crunch of leaves do the talking. The Pacific coast, where the land meets forever. Finally, he drove west, California, Oregon, Washington. Each turn in the road brought a new kind of wonder. Cliffs that dropped into the sea, forests so thick with fog they felt like ancient secrets. He parked Rusty near Big Sur and watched the ocean for hours. He wrote in his journal that night, I used to think the ocean was the end of something. Now I see it's the beginning. I'm not done. I'm just getting started. I used to think the road was just a place you traveled to get somewhere. But now I know the road is the somewhere, all those miles I crossed, all those sunsets and strangers and sleepy cafes. They weren't just destinations. They were mirrors. They showed me who I was, who I wasn't, and who I could still become. So if you're listening to this and you've passed 50 or 60 or 70, and you're wondering if it's too late to explore, to grow, to fall in love with life again, let me tell you what I learned. 1, you don't need to be young to feel young. The world will tell you adventure is for the young, but adventure doesn't come from your legs. It comes from your eyes. Every time I looked at something like it was brand new, a street light in Japan, a tree in New Mexico, a child's smile in Sweden, I felt young again. Not because my body moved like it used to, but because my spirit did. Curiosity is the fountain of youth. 2, and it's free. You don't have to go far to go deep. Some of my favorite moments didn't happen in famous cities. They happened in backyards, in gas stations, on park benches. The world is everywhere. Don't wait until you can afford a plane ticket. Start by looking at the moon differently. Listen to the rain. Ask your neighbor where they grew up. You'll be amazed how much adventure is hiding in plain sight. 3, people are the best part of the journey. I met people with accents I didn't understand, who cooked food I'd never tasted, who lived lives I couldn't imagine. And yet, when we laughed or cried or sat in silence together, I felt more connected than I ever had. The world isn't made up of borders, it's made up of hearts. So wherever you go, speak kindly, listen deeply, and say thank you, even if you have to use hand gestures to do it. 4, it's okay to be afraid, just don't let it drive. I was scared before I left, scared of getting lost, scared of getting hurt, scared of looking foolish. But here's what I figured out. Fear is just your body asking, are you sure you're ready for something wonderful? And my answer became, no, but I'm going anyway. Courage doesn't feel like a lion. It feels like a shaky voice saying, let's try. 5, slowing down is a superpower. When you stop rushing, life walks up to you and says, hi, I've been waiting. A bowl of soup can taste like magic. A quiet morning can feel like treasure. A single smile can change your day. Go slower, breathe deeper, let the moment stretch. 6, your story isn't over. At 50, I thought I was near the end of the book. But turns out I was just starting a new chapter. A chapter full of mystery, laughter, solitude, beauty. A chapter that didn't need to impress anyone, just to matter to me. And now every morning I wake up with this question: what tiny wonder will today bring? That to me is success. Final reflections for you, my fellow traveler. So, What do I want to leave with you, dear listener? Maybe just this. You are not too old. You are not too late, and you are certainly not done. The road is still out there. Whether it's a street in your hometown or a path halfway across the world, it's waiting. Not for the younger version of you, but for you. Right now, wrinkles, wisdom, worries and all. Pack light, carry hope. And when in doubt, take the first step, because the biggest journey of all is learning to see the world and yourself with new eyes. If this story touched your heart, even just a little, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It helps more people just like you find it. And if you're thinking, maybe I could take a journey of my own, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. There's a big, beautiful world out there, and we've got so many stories to tell. Comment below and let me know. Where would you go if you had nothing holding you back? Let's dream out loud together. Wherever you are right now, on a couch, on a bus, or in bed looking at the ceiling, I want you to remember something. The road is never really far. Sometimes all it takes is a shift in how you see the world and a little courage to say yes. Yes to wonder, yes to change, yes to this one short, precious life we get to live. So until next time, take care of your heart, take care of your dreams, and never stop exploring. I'll see you on the road.